hello, hello. Welcome back to another edition of Heart Chronicles with myself, Miss Amber Blaze, and
Minister Tasha.
my lovely co host. So, welcome today. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that is the conversation for many of ladies' outings. Let me say that.
Oh, yes.
So, it is called Depending on a Man,
Versus.
a dependable man. But today we're going to focus on the topic of depending on a man and what that means and what that looks like. So, Minister Tasha, when you hear the words or the phrase depending on a man, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is being like relying totally on someone for your everything, which scares me when it comes to man.
Yes.
So that's the first thing that I think of. Maybe in the past, when you hear that, you think of, oh, she's just a gold digger, or she can't think for herself, or she's not independent, those things. All those things come to mind. What about you?
When I hear depending on a man, and I'm coming from the perspective of a married woman, my first thought is, oh, well, that means somebody takes care of you.
Absolutely. Totally.
Totally. That's it. I depend on my man to take care of me. Now, if you would have asked me this same question,
I was just getting ready to say what you're getting ready to say.
if you would have
With
asked me
age,
this
that
same
changes.
question 15 years ago,
Yes.
depending on a man is in the mindset of, hey, you give me everything I need. I don't have to give you anything. But if
That's
you want
it.
my time and my energy, I need to be able to depend on you to give me all the financial.
And let's
What
be
is the
real.
financial
Let's
thing?
be real. Even if you get some of my time, because you might not.
Absolutely. It might
Very
just
little.
be
Very little.
hand me over the finances.
That's it.
And we're just being very transparent because this is Heart Chronicles, so we are
Right.
speaking from the heart.
Yes. We have very candid conversation.
Conversations, absolutely. So, a lot of times when I hear depending on a man, like I said, I kind of immediately go into the space of, oh, that's a husband responsibility of
Absolutely.
depending on a man.
Absolutely.
But I think when you're a single woman, you look for a man to show that he is dependable
You do.
prior to even considering if you would date him or court him.
Well, you know what? I think it actually depends on the woman and the mindset and where she is in life. Because I think sometimes when we're younger, because I even see it now with like a lot of the 20s, they look to depend on a man fresh out. It's like they don't know anything else. And as you get older, of course things change.
Yes, they
Because
do.
you learn a few lessons, and
Yes, they
when
do.
the rug gets slipped from up under you, when you don't have that person to depend on, then you have to try to figure it out. And then your view changes. Then you go. That's when you shift from depending on to, I need somebody to just got my back.
Right,
basically.
right. And I also think that when I hear the word dependable man, I also think of someone that I can call on. So it's not necessarily
Right.
always a financial
No,
aspect
no.
that's tied to being a dependable man, but a dependable man is, are you reliable? Are you resourceful?
And I think that's the thing is I think most of the time we hear someone say, "Oh, she depend on him too much." I think we automatically go to the finances,
We do.
but we actually depend on them for a lot of things.
A lot.
Emotional, mental, spiritual, sometimes even for validation.
Yes.
And I think the danger comes in where you depend on them for everything.
Yes, I would
Everything.
agree that the danger comes with depending on them for everything, but at the same time, I feel like there are some things I need to be able to depend on. you on.
Absolutely. You should.
Even if
You should.
we are not in a serious committed relationship.
This is true.
If you are within the presence, so let's kind of back up.
Okay.
So if you're in the presence of a man and you're in a room full of people, say you are in an office setting,
Okay.
you don't have a relationship that's necessarily a one-on-one relationship with a
Okay.
man. But I depend on the men to do certain things around that office. They may need to be done. If there's a box that needs to be picked up, I'm depending on the man to step into place to do that. Am I wrong for having that? Because I think some men would say, why would you assume that I would just do that when you have the ability to do it also?
You know, it's funny that you use that example because I actually was in the room once with a married person. I asked them to do it, like, can you move that table here? Can you do this? Because I'm like you. If a man's there, you allow a man to be a man.
Absolutely.
You wear a skirt. And I think after the third request, they said, your muscles don't work.
Oh, Ooh, that would have touched me in a different way.
And it actually kind of made me look at them different. It actually kind of made me look
Yes.
at them different.
Yes, because I always say, who raised you? Who raised you? And
I'm
we have
glad you
gotten
said
to a
it.
place, we've gotten to a place where the whole chivalry of stepping into a man, regardless of your connection to the woman, has kind of gone out the door. And I think that being a man that can be depended on, it doesn't necessarily have to be your mother, your sister, your woman.
Right.
If there are certain things that are a man's responsibility, and I believe that when it requires a level of strength, physical strength, that is your role to be responsible for. I don't care who you are.
And that's good that you said that, because I think a lot of times we look at depending on a man and we limit it only to romantic. And I view it as all men in my life. Basically, I depend on them, for a few different things. Have some fail me? Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a part of the process. But because of some of the men that are in my life, it's helped me to maintain my expectation of the things that I should depend on them for, and why I should depend on them in certain areas and for certain things.
Yeah, that's good. Now, there are some things that you should, of course, depend on a man for. Some of those, like I said, it requires the whole physical strength. If there's physical strength, something needs to be carried, something needs to be
Yes.
taken down. I think a man, we should be able to depend on any man to handle
That's
that
right.
role. Making major decisions for your household.
Right.
That's your responsibility as a man.
That's right.
And protecting and providing. That is the role of a man. And a woman should be able to depend on a man to step into those particular positions.
Okay, so I have a question.
Oh, my.
We're full of questions.
Yes, we
so
are.
Is there ever a point that you think that depending on a man becomes unhealthy?
Yes. And I think depending on a man becomes unhealthy when you have hindered yourself from being able to do it on your own. And when I say from being able to do it on your own, sometimes we can get lazy and spoiled if a man has done so
Complacent.
much for you that now if you're ever in a position where you have to stand on your own, you
You
can't.
don't know what to do. Right.
That means you depended on a man too much when you had one.
Right.
Because you didn't learn how to do it on your own.
Right.
I don't know. So for example, if I get a flat tire, I'm calling on the man to fix it. But if he's not around, I know how to do it.
That's right. That's right.
So I think that is the balance that we should have as women. We don't have to know everything
That's
that a
right.
man knows, but you ought to have some knowledge in every area just in case, because you can depend on a man, you can depend on your brothers, you can depend on your fathers, your mates. What if their health fails them and you have to step into those places
You're exactly
and do
right.
the manly thing?
You're exactly right.
For example, my husband broke his leg. I don't cut grass. But it was either I go ahead and cut this grass or I have my house looking
Right.
like I live in some part of the projects.
Not the project.
Just the projects. So I had to get out there and I had to cut that grass. And that was different for me. It gave me another level of insight as to the responsibility that comes and the level of strength and energy it takes to just do something that I took for granted.
Because you think, just get out there and cut it.
And oftentimes we put a pressure on a man because we like, you the man, you need to do everything. You the
yes,
man, you
yes,
do that, you
yes,
do that, you
yes.
do that.
Yes.
But then when you got to go and do it yourself,
That's right.
then you start looking like, ooh, I
Maybe
might
I
need to give a
won't-
little more accolades when he does
Maybe I
something.
won't rush you out there next time. Apply so
Absolutely.
much pressure. Yes.
Now, I do know that as it relates to depending on a man, your number one instruction is to follow the lead of God.
Absolutely. And you should.
And the Bible talks about a lot as it relates to a man's responsibility and his role to his family, and he is to work by the sweat of his brow. So I believe that because God has mandated those
Yes.
particular areas, a woman has the right to have that expectation
This is true.
of a man when it comes to depending on you. You should not be shocked. And I think that is an insult when I hear a man say, oh, she's a gold digger. No. You are required and responsible for providing for this woman.
This is
So
true.
if she has the expectation for you to be the man, why are you offended when we say we depend on you?
Well, because see, here I go.
Yes,
My
Minister
clients get
Tasha.
on me about this because they oftentimes say, you always think like the man. You take up for them. Sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
women aren't doing their part, and they have this high expectation, and it's just this, like you said, simply because I'm a woman, and I wear the skirt and my legs are crossed. That says you better do all of this stuff. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, I agree
You do?
to some extent. I still feel like, as a man, and I think it has to do with our society is changing
Mm-hmm.
and the expectations are changing, the expectations of men are changing, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we have fallen back on the expectation of men. So, what used to occur in the past with our fathers and our grandfathers and the expectation of men, that expectation isn't there. And that because that expectation isn't there, it's been passed on to the generations to come. So they've gotten kind of lax in their thought process as to what I have to do and what I should be doing.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think the other piece is if we're going to use that stance,
Mm-hmm.
going back to our grandfathers and our fathers and
Mm.
stuff like that, you have to remember that our grandmothers and, stuff like they got up and cooked breakfast at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning and made,
Yes, Lord.
coffee, and they probably ironed the laundry. So all he had to do was pull out his clothes. Let's be real.
That's true. And I'm not doing all that right now. I just want everybody to know on Heart Chronicles, I don't do all that all the
Let's
time.
be real.
I'm just being honest. I am a new aged wife. Now, that does not mean that I don't get up and cook and do all those things. But I would agree that it was a different timing and the situations were different.
So then is it fair, new age wife?
I do feel it's still
It's
fair.
for them to have to stay the same, but you can be different. The wife and the
No, I'm
woman can
not
be
saying you
different.
can be different because, see, I have a role and responsibility as well.
I understand.
But I do not believe that yours changes because my role has changed. I know that's unfair. It's biased. This is Hard Chronicles. This is simply Amber's thought process.
Amber.
I do not believe.
I'm not saying that you have to get up and cook 3 meals a day, but even in regards to the Proverbs 31 woman,
Yeah, she's a bad sister.
she's a cold piece of work.
She's a cold piece of
She
work.
is cold.
She is.
Cold. So I think in that sense, of course, she could depend on him because he like she doing all this. You know what? Hands down, I don't even have to think twice about protecting her and providing for her because she holding it down. She holding the household down.
So, again, when we go into
I love
talking
you, Amber.
about depending on a man, I have the expectation of a dependable man to, like we said, we've talked about the whole strength and the physical strength, but there is an emotional piece
Yes.
that's attached to it. And I think that those portions of being a dependable man have to be fulfilled and they are expected from women. We expect for you to emotionally be able to cover us as women.
So expound on that just a little bit.
Oh my goodness. So we expect for you to have a listening ear. To me, that's a dependable man.
I agree.
Can I trust you with my vulnerabilities?
I agree.
Can I trust you with my secrets?
I
Can I
agree.
trust you to be a resource for me,
I
to
agree.
guide me, to lead me, to provide me with a certain level of advice that's going to take me to the next level?
And I think that this piece right here, the financial thing, I think we kind of move
That's just one
beyond.
aspect.
We kind of
Yeah,
move
that's
beyond.
one aspect
But even
of
as a
it.
people, I think we kind of move beyond that part because you're like, you know what, you work, I work, okay. But I think when it comes to that emotional thing, like you just talked about the vulnerabilities, I think that's the hardest part for us to be able to depend and trust and rely on that you got me, like to be able to give you my deepest, most innermost. Maybe insecurity, this thing that I'm not going to tell anybody, but you know what, I'm going to give this to you, or this thing that happened that I wouldn't share with anyone else, but you know what, I'm going to share that with you in hopes that you can, because of this thing, you can uphold me,
Right.
emotionally. I think
Right.
that's big, and I think a lot of times that's the part that hinders us as women from actually totally depending on even our God sins. you know, your husband.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though God put you together, there's still that reservation. Like,
Yes,
I don't know, God, are
absolutely.
you sure? You know,
Mm-hmm.
because who wants to be hurt? Who wants to be let
That
down?
is right.
And then that doesn't mean that we all are work in progress. Progress, excuse me. And I think we don't allow them room to even be able to grow into some of these shoes. Sometimes, you know.
Yes, that is very true. You know, one of the things that I've honestly had to struggle with in my life is because I was raised in a single parent home.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to depend on a man was not what I was exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So because I wasn't exposed to depending on a man, that was a struggle for me to release
Mm-hmm.
that level of responsibility to
I
somebody
understand.
else because I've always seen a woman do it all.
Mm-hmm.
So if he didn't do it all,
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with it for a while because I've always seen a woman go ahead and step into those shoes, be it the woman's responsibility or role or the man's
Right.
role. And I've gotten past that. Thank you, Jesus, because I will pass on anything to my husband to handle.
Yes.
I really
Yes.
will.
And that is learned though.
It is a learned
Like you
behavior,
said,
and I
it's
think
definitely
that
learned.
if you do not learn that you may have that struggle because a lot of us do come from single parent homes
Mm-hmm.
and you go into relationships and marriages, you do not allow a man to be dependable, and when he does not feel he can be depended on,
Right.
you take away his need
Right.
or his feeling of feeling like he is needed because a man needs to
Right.
be needed.
At all times. Right.
And if he doesn't feel like he's needed, he doesn't feel like he really has a place with you.
You're right.
So that's probably been one of the biggest struggles I've had.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle with it a little bit because I do it on. I'm so independent.
Because
So
again, that's what you saw.
that's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And releasing that dependence and saying, okay, switch to
It-
dependability
it
on
makes-
this other individual.
It makes you very vulnerable,
Oh,
and
my
that is
goodness.
scary.
It is
It's
very scary. It is extremely scary.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, what do you think is probably uh, the life lesson that you've learned as it relates to depending on men?
I think it was something that you just touched on, and it was actually allowing them to be men.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the lessons that God showed me that in my marriage. One of the things, the area that I contributed to is fair because it takes two,
That's right.
and that's one of the things that he showed me. And my ex-husband would say it, Tasha, you don't wear the pants. He wasn't saying it in a way that I could understand it, but I understood because of my independence what it did to him. Because again, it's supposed to be one, and we were
Right.
operating as two.
Yes.
And I think over the years I've learned how to balance that out. Is it always easy? No, because of, again, like you said, the examples that I've seen. So, and I've had all of the above. I've had grandfathers that held it down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had my great grandfather that he attended to me emotionally. Made sure that I knew that I was pretty, and
Right.
he was, how did your day go, baby?
Mhm.
All of that tender side.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather, he took care of the house. He was very good about that, and the things that he exposed us to. When it got down to my dad, it was kind of a little bit different. He was very well to do, but just how he did it is where my distrust started. And just because of it was so on again, off again, and so I always felt like I don't want to get on because when you get off, that's gonna throw me off. And so what I did over time was I put myself in this safe spot, which I had to learn how to get out of that and understand that everybody isn't what I'm used to.
So, do you think that a lot of women maybe struggle in that particular area?
Oh yeah.
Because maybe we didn't have fathers to depend
Oh
on.
yeah.
I didn't have a father
That's
to
exactly
depend on.
why.
So because we didn't have the fathers to depend on, we grow up to be these women that get in relationships with men who want us to transfer this dependability onto them, and we struggle. And it causes
because we don't know
conflict.
what it looks like.
We don't
and,
know
and
what
the
it looks
idea
like.
that we have in mind really isn't it.
So, to our listeners out there at Heart Chronicles, if you take anything from this, that is, as a father, you have a responsibility to show your
To show your
daughters
daughters.
that she can depend on you.
Yes.
So that when she gets into a relationship with her husband,
That's right.
she knows how to depend on her husband and allow
Yes.
him to be a man.
That standard
So,
is set.
yes,
You
it
have a
is.
set
Yes,
standard.
it is. It is a set
Yes.
standard. That kind of leads me into our next area. What is it that you should not be dependent on a man for? Because there's some people that will give everything to a man, and then there's some areas that you really shouldn't depend on a man for.
I think it's validation.
Yes. Yes.
To
That's a
validate
good one.
you to it's not their responsibility. Yes, of course they encourage us. They speak into us. They pray. They pray for us. They tell us we're beautiful, we're smart, or whatever it is. That they tell us. But we shouldn't rely on them to know that, because that says if they quit saying that,
Then we've lost
we're
our
gonna-
validation.
we've lost it, and
Absolutely.
we're gonna be lost.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna be mad at them because you're not telling me. Why aren't you telling me when that's something that we have to know? And they just affirm what we already know. And I think a lot of times we place our value in this relationship. So if we don't, if it goes away, then we feel like, oh my God, I've lost everything because that piece is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
I think that we should not necessarily depend on, again, it goes back to where you are in life, because
Experience.
the expectations are different depending on the situation you in.
But I also think it's your age too, because at the age of 21, or even when I got married at the age of 24, and now I'm going to be 44, I'm completely different.
Yes. Life and experiences will
Absolutely.
give you an entirely different
Yes,
perspective.
yes.
I'm sure if we ever did a poll, which we probably will, if we ever did a poll of what a dependable man looks like for someone in their 20s versus someone in their 40s, in their 50s or 30s, it's going to be two
It's going to
totally
be
different answers.
completely different.
Because I think our experiences
Shape
as it
us.
relates to relationships and who we were raised around and what men were in our lives
Mm-hmm.
will dictate how we function and how we see them. I think that we don't allow a lot of men to be men.
You're right.
Because we are in a society now where it's pumping the fist of women. We can do it all. We can do everything. Women got this. And then the men are sitting here and they're sitting back and they're
sit
looking at us
down.
like, I'm just going to watch her bump her head because she
Because-
thinks she's got it
'cause you're
figured
going
out and
to.
she don't.
Because you're going
She
to.
has no clue as to the responsibility or the strength needed to
That's
do what
it.
she's
Because
trying
God
to do.
created man and woman for a
For a
reason.
reason.
For a reason. Not for us to be without them, not for them to be without us.
That
It
is
was for a
very
reason.
true.
It was a partnership.
That is very
Yes. A team. A team.
true. A team effort is what
Yes,
it was.
it's a
Absolutely.
team.
It was a team effort. So many times when you have these conversations, I know when I go out with my girlfriends and we have conversations as it relates to men and what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And what I've come to the conclusion of is, at the end of the day, everybody wants to have someone that is completely the source of trust.
Yes.
Because that to me is
That's
where
big.
dependability comes
That's the root of it,
in. That is
actually.
the root. Can I trust
Can
you?
I trust you no matter what?
No matter what. Will
No matter
you be
what.
there no matter what?
No matter what.
Be it financially, will you be there? Emotionally, will you be there?
Spiritually,
Support wise, will you
yes.
be there? Spiritually, will you cover me?
Will you cover me?
And to me, when you pull all
Mentally,
those
can you
things-
handle my
mentally,
mental
yes.
stamina? Yeah.
And when you put all of those things into a man, whew, he's a bad mamma jamma.
Okay.
So I read this article.
He's a great God's gift.
Listen, so I read this article about a lady who said that she went out on a date with a guy that, she had her dream set. Like, if I had a guy, he'd have A, B, C,
Build a
D.
man.
She built a man. Found a man that fit all those qualities. And when she went out with him, she said, I didn't realize that I never considered dependability. I wanted him to look good. I wanted him to smell good. I wanted him to have a certain financial status, drive a certain type of car, have a certain skin complexion.
All the external stuff.
All the external. But then when it came down to, hey, baby, I give you a call tomorrow, and he didn't do it, it kind of rubbed her different because she realized like, oh, he's got everything I asked for.
But you don't do what you
But
say.
that man, exactly,
You don't do what you
don't
say.
do what you said
That's
you were gonna
big.
do. But the main thing that I needed was reliable. So she said she went out with the square guy. She said the square guy, if he said I'll call you tomorrow at 10,
He called
he
tomorrow.
called tomorrow at 10. If he told her, hey, if you need some help, call me. When I called him, he was available. So she said she's realizing that dependable men are usually the men that we constantly overlook.
We do.
Because dependable men, she said dependable men are not in need of validation.
That's right.
They don't scream and shout, look at me, I do this and I do that. And that was just such
But that's the truth.
eye-opening,
That's the truth.
thought process from her in her article. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree 100%.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, a lot of times, then again, it depends on where you are in life. Because for a person that's about status, they're going to look for status. And then in turn, like she said, it's going to backfire because the things on the inside is really the stuff that we really need. We just don't realize that we need that stuff. And as you get older, and I think too, after you've been kind of single for a while,
Yeah.
those things change.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
I'm sure they do.
change.
So do you think that...
And I'm not saying changing, you still don't want those things, you just readjust the list.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, you
That's a
realign the
really
list.
good
So
way.
where these were 5, now those might be 8 through 13. And my 8 through 13 or my 20 through 25 are now 1 through 5.
Whew, that's a tough one. I'm sorry, brothers. We got a whole list of expectations for you, but that's just
It's real.
it's real.
Yeah.
So in the courting and dating phases of life, do you think it's fair to have all of these dependabilities for a man? Especially if you're courting and dating
So I'm a different kind of person.
Okay.
The average woman will probably say, yeah. But for me, I kind of, because I operate like this, so that's why I think I do the person like that. It's kind of like opening a gift. And so it's little by little. I watch you unravel. I don't put these demands on you. I just kind of see who you are. As time progresses, I watch you in different case scenarios, how you handle different things, because that shows me exactly who you are. Exactly who you are.
Because I guess if you lay out all the expectations,
They're gonna do exactly
they're gonna
what
run
you
and do
want.
exactly what you need them to do, so that they
Exactly.
can prove to you, I fit the bill.
And when you just
Yes,
watch them,
that
you
is
watch
true.
them with their children, you watch them in their business affairs, you listen to their conversation, you see exactly what their character is and if they are a dependable person or not. You see even how they approach you, their conversation with you. If it's fluff, you're going to know. All you have the gift of gab, keep it moving. It's me, basically. And
Yeah.
but you can tell when a person really is, they have integrity and they've worked hard for everything that they have. So there are certain values that they have. And those are things that I look for, those certain family values. Can your family depend on you? I even watch them in their business, in your affairs with your clients. Are you dependable? Are you reliable? Do you brush them off? How do you do that? Because the biggest test is someone that doesn't have anything to offer you or, that would needs anything from you. How do you treat them? And I watch that.
That's good. That's good. As you all know, this is one of those topics that, depending on a man, we can go round and round and on about it,
Yes.
because it is just one of those topics that I don't care what your race is, what your background is, what your age is, what your financial status is. You will come into relationships with the opposite sex, and you have expectations.
That's
And
right.
when those expectations are not met,
That's
it's
right.
usually because someone was not dependable and
That's
you could
right.
not trust them
That's
with
right.
certain areas and things of that sort.
Right.
So, as we continue on with this particular topic, on next week, we're going to talk about a dependable man.
dependable
So today
man.
we talked about depending on a man.
Yes.
But next week we're going to talk about a dependable man and what that is.
What that looks like.
What
Yes.
what character traits fall into the category of a dependable man? Because It's gonna again vary depending on age, depending on where you are
Your
in
need.
life.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we want you guys to make sure that you tune in
Please
next week
tune in.
as we
It's gonna get good.
have those topics. And this may run over. And I think we're actually going to take the approach of maybe getting some guys
Oh
to come
yes.
in and kind of give
Yes,
their
we should.
insight.
We really should.
We really should.
We really should.
Because I know they're going to disagree on some things, but that's okay because we are probably right. So, again, we thank you once again for
Yes.
tuning in with us on another episode of Heart Chronicles. And I am Sister Amber, and this is my co host, Miss.
Minister Tasha.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one. Bye.
Bye.